Hello everyone, so welcome back. In the previous videos, we have seen about the different components of the data factory, right? Like started with the pipelines and activities. Then we have seen about the linked service and the data sets. And even we have seen about the integration runtime. And in this video, let's discuss about the triggers. Okay, so if I just go to the authors here, okay, so like whatever the pipelines we are creating, okay, so you can see like we have something called a trigger, right? So here you can see like I can just run this pipeline by clicking on this trigger now, or I can just go and click on the new trigger. Okay, so for example, if I want to create a new trigger, okay, so here you can see I need to provide the trigger name, okay, the description and schedule. Okay, so first of all, okay, so what is trigger? Okay, so basically if I'm just talking about the triggers, okay, so they are needed to execute your pipeline, okay, so without any manual intervention at a predefined schedule. Okay, so we can set the configuration settings like start, end date, and execution frequency and time to execute and all other stuff. Okay, so this is how we create a new triggers. Okay, so we need to provide the name of the trigger, then description, okay, to identify this trigger. Okay, so then the schedule. Okay, so here of course like we have three types of schedule. Okay, so one is tumbling window, we have a storage events, and we have a custom events. Okay, so let's go with the custom events. Okay, so when you click onto this custom events, okay, so here first we need to select the account selection method. Okay, so that is from the Azure subscription. Okay, so this is my subscription, and here so event grid topic name. Okay, so right now we have not created any topics, so for that reason we're showing empty. Okay, so we'll be applying this a topic name here. Okay, so for example subscription, or enter manually. Okay, so we need to enter the scope. Okay, so I'm just giving the grid. Okay, so next here so we need to give like the events. Okay, so which when we need to, for example, I want to create a new event, so I'll be giving like so all the basic details I'll be filtering. Okay, so this is very simple. Okay, so of course like when to start and when to end this. Okay, so you can just try to give this based on this custom events. Okay, so next, for example, if I just go to the type schedule. Okay, so under the type schedule you can see like we have a start date. Okay, so I can just click onto this, I can just select. Okay, so I want to schedule it tomorrow and at what time. Okay, so even this is the start date. Okay, so I need to choose the time zone. Okay, so whether it's international or this or any other time zone, you can just select it here. Okay, so next is reoccurrence. Okay, so so when so at like at what frequency like we need to run this particular pipeline, right? So I can just give that every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes, or even we can just specify the end date as well. Okay, so when to start and when to end. Okay, so all the details you can just enter here. Okay, and click on to this. Okay, so once you click on this, that particular trigger will be created. Okay, so this is for the schedule. Okay, first we have a schedule. Okay, so where we can just schedule the trigger to happen. Okay, so next we have a tumbling window. Okay, so tumbling window so I'll just show you the documentation here. Okay, so tumbling window is also a similar way. Okay, so you can see so in the tumbling window. Okay, so we have a advanced concept called window concept. Okay, so where this trigger will depend on the previous triggers. Okay, so for example here like see again like trigger name, description, we are selecting the tumbling window, and we are giving the start date and occurrence, or everything remains same. But here the difference is if I just go to the advanced section, so here you can see like we have a delay, maximum concurrency. Okay, then a retry policy count, and retry policy, that is interval in seconds. Okay, so if I want to add dependencies, okay, I can just give the, for example, I have the previous one trigger. Okay, so this is an example you can see. So I have a two triggers here, trigger A and trigger B, and for example 9 to 10 the trigger A will be run. Okay, and 10 to 11. Okay, so the trigger so simultaneous trigger B will be run, and but trigger A will run once the trigger B is completed. Okay, so this is dependency, so A depends on the B. Okay, so here the offset is 0. Okay, so offset is like it depends on the one window. Okay, so so this is basically a Windows concept. Okay, for example here if I just give to the offset of -1, so it will be, for example, 9 to 10 it will depend, and so 9 to 10. Okay, so wait even trigger B will be executed, and even trigger A 9 to 10 will execute, but to execute 10 to 11 it will depend on the trigger B which has to be completed. Okay, that is -1. Okay, so this is dependency size. Okay, so here the dependency size is you can see unspecified. We are not giving any dependency size, but here the dependency size is 2. So what does it mean? So basically trigger A depends on trigger B. Okay, 9 to 10 it will run. Okay, and for 10 to 11 it will depend on the two window size. This is what the size of the window. Okay, that is 2. Okay, so here is a offset is basically the R. Okay, so it will depend on the previous one. Okay, so you can see when just keep on adding. Okay, this is self dependence. Okay, it will depend. So trigger A depends on trigger A and offset of -1. Okay, so to execute this 10 to 11 it should have to be completed this 9 to 10 event. Okay, 9 to 10 task. Okay, and this size is unspecified, but the size is 2, so where it will depend on the two windows, previous two windows. Okay, this is self dependency. Okay, so this is what the dependencies concept here. Okay, so in the troubling window, this is what will give the delay. Okay, so if you want to get into the new trigger, okay, we can just set the delay here. Even we set the concurrency, the number of simultaneous triggers run that when they are fired. Okay, so this is a retry policy. Okay, the number of retries before a pipeline run is marked as fail. In case if there any a failure in the trigger, okay, so this is the retry policy count. We can just enter it, and this is the retry policy which is interval in the seconds. Okay, we can just apply. Okay, after a few seconds just try to do it, or after 30 seconds just try to do it once again. Okay, so we can just try to all that. Okay, so here, okay, so of course when we're adding here you can see like we have a trigger. Okay, so on which trigger and what is the offset we need to set, and what is the window size we need to set. Okay, this is how the offset and the window size is being defined. Okay, so I hope you are getting this point, right? So when we are discussing about the dependency offset, so trigger A depends on trigger B, and so once the trigger B is done, so then only it will execute this. Okay, so here offset is -1, that is trigger A depends on the trigger B, and the 10 to 11 event depends on the event which is being completed by 9 to 10 in the trigger B. Okay, so this is about the offset. The size about the window size. Okay, so it will look for the one here, it's unspecified, and here it is looking for the two events which has been occurred. So this particular trigger, okay, that is 10 to 11 trigger will depend on the two window size of the trigger B. Okay, so this is all about offset and the window size. Okay, so this is comes under the trembling window. Okay, next is we have a storage events. Okay, so where we can just give the events is similar. Okay, so when we go for storage event custom events, it will try to execute on that particular time. Okay, and this is where we give the paths. Okay, so all the details can be filled here. Okay, so this is all about the triggers. Okay, so even like while executing, we can just try to create a new or trigger now. Okay, so if you're creating new event, it can just select the existing trigger. Okay, so this is all about the triggers here. Okay, so if I just go to here slides, like you can see, so it execute the pipeline, right? And it has so even like one pipeline can have a multiple triggers. Okay, so that is many to many relation between the pipelines and the triggers. And there are three types of triggers. When we have a schedule trigger which invoke the pipeline on a wall clock schedule, right? And we have a trembling window trigger which operates on a periodic interval and also retain the state, which has one-to-one relationship. Even it has the advanced configuration options like dependencies, delay, retry, and the concurrency. And even it has the properties like trigger.outputs. Okay, so that is window start time and window end time. So finally we have a event based triggers. Okay, so which is respond to certain events like arrival or deletion of file in certain services like a blob storage, or even trigger with Azure event grid service, or properties like trigger body, like if we have certain properties we can just set the triggers. Okay, this is the different types of triggers. I hope you understood, right? So now let's try to do a demo of the data, like copy the data activity in the next section.